I recently discovered a new comic book series by the name of Class 6. This was published by Kraven Comics. This has to do with a lot of superhero antics, but it also has to do with real world events, and there's a lot of sci-fi aspects put in there as well.
I'm in love with a hero. I'm in love with the one who will...
Hello comic book people of the world, let's talk about the first 5 issues of Class 6. This is written by Fernando Velez. Right off the bat, I'm going to say there's some major spoilers having to do with this series, so you've been warned. It's hard to explain this comic book series because there's a lot of different directions and plot points that are being put in play. I've only read the first 5 issues, but each of the issues do spotlight individual characters. The first issue is called The Cure, where we're introduced to the character known as Nevia. She's a transgender woman who also has the ability to shapeshift. She was kicked out of her home by her biological parents at a very young age, but was adopted by a doctor who was capable of giving her the surgery that she wanted. Unfortunately, there's an evil doctor by the name of Dr. Taihan who has other plans for her. He's also spearheading a campaign to quote-unquote cure homosexuals. Things don't go exactly his way in this issue, and he's defeated by both Nevia and another character that's introduced by the name of Iran. Now, Iran didn't really have a huge role in this issue, but he is introduced into it, and we see that he has the ability to have some sort of telekinesis. Although we do find out that Iran is a gay man himself, and he's going after Dr. Taihan specifically because Dr. Taihan tried to destroy the cure for HIV. In the second issue, we're introduced to the character known as Nami. He's born with a rare disease, however, his father finds a way to keep this disease in check by using nanotechnology. This mutates into the point where he becomes a technopath, meaning that he can communicate and control technology. And his parents, who started out doing this for a more noble reason, end up doing it for a much more selfish reason, realizing that they have the ability to control a lot of different finances and to create a huge business empire all under their son's control. He tries to escape their control with his boyfriend. Unfortunately, though, his boyfriend meets a very bad end. He somewhat takes off and disappears, but you know he's going to come back later in a future story. In the third issue, we go to the country of Uganda, and we're immediately shown the atrocities that are allowed to be performed on women. Men are allowed to rape their daughters. In this case, we're introduced to the character of Jasari, to which her mother is able to save her, but only briefly. Jasari does end up having a child herself from her father, but the baby is quickly taken away from her. We find out that Jasari is a descendant from some very powerful beings. She has the ability to control plants, sort of like poison ivy, but on a much stronger level. In issue number 4, we're introduced to a new villain by the name of Pastor Scott. He's pushing the agenda to murder all members of the LGBT community. Nevia returns back in this story, and she's attempting to recruit Jasari to help her out so that they can capture Pastor Scott and bring him into court. So we sort of have the beginnings of a superhero team-up. However, when issue number 5 starts up, everything goes into a completely different direction that I wasn't expecting. The character of Queen Izar is brought into play, and whether or not he or she has a gender, that's not really explained. Izar is an alien with their partner, Lucifer, who come to Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago and begins human life. But not exactly human life, their version of human life. Human life as we know it is something else completely different. It's a bit confusing because we have other races at play here. Apparently reptilian creatures are trying to infiltrate society. Izar and Lucifer, who starts out as lovers, end up parting ways and become enemies. And we see them at different points in history, including some biblical stories. Like we see them at Noah's Ark at a certain point, also in ancient Rome for the birth of Jesus Christ. So basically this story is saying that everything having to do with the Bible is directly related to Izar and Lucifer. But like I said, I was not expecting anything like that to be a part of this story. So that's all I've read up to this point. The first 5 issues, it starts out somewhat slow, but it really steamrolls into a huge event. So it is definitely a different kind of story that I ever imagined it to be. It is quite well done, and I gotta give it credit for being unique. There are a couple real-life people that are put into this just to relate to our reality, including Putin from Russia. President Obama's in it, and I haven't gotten to it yet, but I do know that Trump shows up in this as well. I'm pretty sure he's a reptilian alien, though. I don't want to criticize this too much, but there are a couple minor problems with this story. The biggest one is that it does go into a lot of different directions. Like I said, the whole alien aspect and how they're actually influencing all of society, that was something that just totally came from left field. Not that that's a bad thing, and I do see that this was probably planned from issue number 1, but it felt a bit confusing, and I had to go back to issue number 1 and reread everything again. Another little minor thing that kind of bugged me is that we have all of these characters, but they're not really teaming up in any way. In fact, most of them haven't met, but I am positive that that happens later on down the line, being that I did read some of the descriptions of the future issues. Otherwise, though, this is a really fantastic comic book. I mean, really, those are very minor problems I had with it. I mean, it is completely worth it. Each of the issues themselves almost feel like each of them are double-sized. Like, issue number 3 was 50 pages long, and I think that's pretty good to have this much story in just one issue. I'm going to continue on reading this story. I'm very curious how it's going to end up. So Fernando, really cool author, very unique premise. If you're interested in reading this series, you want to go to Comixology, and all of them are available there. So let me end this video now. If you made it up to this point, you're pretty darn cool. If you haven't done it yet, subscribe to my channel, hit that like button if you like this video. Also put that notification bell on so you can see future videos I'm doing. Check out my Patreon site when you get a chance. Check out my social media sites, my websites, and everything else out there. Peace, love, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.
In the gay comic geek.
Kind of disappointed that I only read up to issue number 5 because issue number 6 looks like they're introducing a character by the name of Kion who looks like a bear. In fact, one of his belt buckles, his symbol, is a bear claw, and that in itself I think is so cool and sexy. Giggity.